Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC 292, The Suga Show, Sterling versus O'Malley. The perfect ending. The ending that everyone wanted. We all wanted it. For years, Aljamain Sterling has been haunting the bantamweight division, and not in terms of him being scary or him being impossible to beat. No, just the fact that he shouldn't have won in the fact that he got a DQ win. He rightfully beat Peter Yan the second time, in my opinion. Then was gifted an injury-riddled TJ Dillashaw. Then went to a close decision, I think he won, against Cejudo. And then on top of that, goofy John Anik wants to go and say he's the greatest bantamweight of all time. They were stuffing him down our throats. And now we have somebody else who, we'll get to it later, but I don't know how they'll stuff Suga down our throats, given that he might face Cheeto next. Maybe. He should fight Merab next, but he'll probably fight Cheeto next. And we'll talk about how I think that matchup will go. This is the Suga Show. This is now the Suga Show. And we're going to go instantly into the best part of the Suga Show, which was the shit show that was the judging performance tonight. And we're going to start off with an injustice, a robbery, so to speak. Blackshear versus Bautista. I think it's Bautista. Blackshear versus Bautista. A clear robbery. Okay, I couldn't. This happens every now and again. In my head, I'm sitting there. I'm like, you know what? You know, this is 29-28. And you can tell by the way that sometimes the commentary will sound away to where they're just like, oh, what a fantastic third round. And I'm like, why did they say it like that? Why did they say it like... And again, I'm saying this in the sense that, of course, they have no control over what the judges do. But it gives me that eerie feeling of someone's about to get fucked here. And little did I know that it was going to be unanimous. You know, it's one thing to fuck over... It's one thing to rob a fighter on a split decision, right? Because then it's like two people were incompetent versus one person. When all three saw the same thing that didn't happen, your mind goes to a place of what the fuck? And let's talk about it for a second. So I had this 29-28 Blackshear. He wins the first two rounds. Last round goes to Bautista, obviously. Okay, in that very first round, Blackshear had two takedowns, and he outstruck Bautista on the feet. In the second round, Blackshear outstruck Bautista on the feet, and we'll talk about that second round in a second. And then the third round, Bautista had three takedowns with some ground and pound. It's his round, obviously. You go to the judges' scorecards. Saul D'Amato, Chris Lee, their scorecard reflects the same. They give the last two rounds to Bautista. And then you have Steve Ritta, who gives all three. First of all, it's an injustice, so all three of the judges' scorecards are stupid, in my opinion. All three. Injustice, honorable mention, whatever you want to say. Giving the first round to Bautista is madness. I don't know what... It's madness. It just means two things. It means you're either blind or you marked up the wrong thing and you were like, oh shit, I forgot to change it. That's the only excuse here. Two takedowns, and he outstruck Bautista on the feet. I mean, there's nothing more clear. The first and the third round are the clearest rounds. I think the second round is clear, but we'll talk about that in a second. Those are the clearest rounds. Now, we're going to go into the thing that makes this... it's an injustice. Blackshear should have won this fight. He was robbed 100%. But we're going to go into something that the commentary made note of, right? Because remember, the commentary, and this isn't shade to the commentary, they don't score cards. They kind of just loosely score cards, which is they're partially watching and then they're also talking most of the time and they're not really looking at it. A good example will be a round I'll talk about later in the night. But they were highlighting the fact that Bautista was just pushing the pace. Now, he was still getting outstruck. This is the reason why this is a robbery. Bautista is going forward, being the aggressor, and still getting outstruck. Not being he's deterring the takedowns from Blackshear. So in this second round, he's moving forward. Blackshear is going for takedowns. He's not getting them. The optics don't look good. Now, we've seen rounds like this, but in the Apex, they get scored correctly. Most of the time, I'd say 70-30, right? Occasionally, I'll go here and I'll go, oh, this happened, right? We've seen many rounds where the aggressor is getting outstruck. That was the case here, where Bautista is getting outstruck on the feet, but it just looks so sloppy in the sense that Bautista is going forward. Bautista's getting outstruck. Bautista's deterring all of Blackshear's takedowns, and you're left with the optic of, oh yeah, Bautista just won that round, when that wasn't the case, when Bautista is actually getting outstruck in this round. It was a wild thing to see. And another interesting tidbit is, while Blackshear didn't outstrike him heavy in this round, we'll talk about this again for some other fights too. The stat counter, whoever is counting the stats, was overinflating certain rounds. Now, the second round is one thing. Blackshear did not outstrike Bautista heavy the way the stats portray it. He outstruck him by, I don't want to say, maybe 4 to 10 strikes probably, but not the 13 to 20 strike gap they gave him in that second round. The point is, this fight was a pure robbery, and no one's gonna care. We'll just move on. We'll just care about the 30-27. That's gross, but we'll just care about the 30-27. Let's go to the honorable mentions category. This was a fun night for judges. I'll say the least. Again, this is the Suga Show. We should all be happy and rejoice in the fact that Aljamain Sterling. By the way, I'm a fan now. I don't know how to take this. When fighters, win or lose, will shoot at the crowd, right? The entire night, it'll be, Aljamain was really... By the way, I just want to point out that I like Aljamain. He's fine. He's cool, whatever. DC, the commentary, will be like, Aljamain, he invites these boos. He doesn't care. He really doesn't care about these boos. And then he's in the cage and he's like, man, I was just chasing a dream. Yeah, we know you were fucking chasing a dream. We know you were chasing a dream, dude. I'm just chasing a dream. I hope everyone in this crowd can chase a dream. It's this weird backhanded compliment. And then the crowd claps as though he said it in a genuine, nice way. No, he was sad. He's sad. He just lost. And he meant it as a slug. He meant it as a jab to the crowd who was booing him as, yeah, you guys are losers. I chase after a dream. You didn't. I hope you guys chase after one because you guys booed me. I don't understand how the crowd then reacts in a clap, clap, clap after he just shat on them. The same thing with Adesanya. Adesanya, after he beat Pereira, he goes into a thing of like, I hope you people behind your keyboards feel a moment like this. And then everyone clapped as though he was saying it in an inspirational tone. No, it was a backhanded not even compliment. It was a passive-aggressive slug at his detractors. But this is that other thing in MMA where everything has to be inspiration. Every sort of, we have to give ultimate respect. Listen, at the end of the day, they should kind of understand that they're going to get this reaction. You can't tell me to my face that you won on a DQ, which wasn't your fault, by the way. You were then given weird matchups that somehow fell into your favor. And then the commentary is telling me you're the greatest bantamweight of all time and I should like you? No, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be one of the greatest strikers in middleweight history. Climb up, everyone likes you, and then you become kind of detached from the audience. You become a bit of like a dickhead. You become mean. you really lose the plot, so to speak, on who you're talking to, and then one day go, why does everyone hate me? Why does everyone hate me? Well, you forgot to look into the mirror and then wonder why everyone hates you. Let's get back to the fucking scorecards. Honorable mention, Petroski versus Meerschaert. Guys, this is a low-key robbery in my head. I put this in the robbery category, then I had to erase it and put it in the honorable mentions category because I couldn't. I had to be real objective, right? It's a low-key robbery, and we'll explain it in a second. Petroski versus Meerschaert. I had this 29-28 for Meerschaert. It ended in a split decision win for Petroski. In that very first round, Meerschaert outstruck Petroski on the feet by about 3 strikes. Right, he was up on strikes by 3 strikes, and then Petroski had a takedown and proceeded to do nothing with it. He was basically held by Meerschaert, and the round ended. Now, this reminds me slightly of what happened a couple weeks ago with Pereira and Blachowicz, where Blachowicz is getting outstruck on the feet by about maybe 5 strikes in that third round before he takes down Pereira. And then forget about what Pereira does, where he just kind of spams a bunch of, shit when he's on the floor. But it reminds me of the same thing in the sense that one judge basically was like, the 5 strikes that Pereira landed on the feet is irrelevant to the fact that Blachowicz had that takedown at the end, right? Whatever. I talked about that a couple weeks ago, so I won't rehash it now. But in this fight, it's the same thing where 2 judges were basically like, you know what? Meerschaert was outstruck. Like, it's pretty clear. Meerschaert is outstriking him in the first round. That is clear. But 2 judges decided, yeah, those strikes don't matter. Yes, he gets taken down at the very end of the round, and they don't matter. It's one thing if this were like, 2 strikes, and again, I can't fully disagree with them because it's not as though he outstruck Petroski by 5 to 10, 10 to 15. Then we'd be screaming robbery. Then I'd mark this in the robbery category. So I had to be objective and go, yep, it's 3 strikes. Maybe it's not as significant as the takedown, but this takedown was just like a single leg will just swim you to the ground and then hold you for the rest of the round. It's not as though he did anything with it. That's my madness for that. Second round, because I think I just highlighted the first round. Second round, Petroski outstrikes and drops Meerschaert while also having a takedown and a little bit of ground and pound, right? Second round, Petroski. Third round, both had a takedown. But Meerschaert outstruck Petroski on the feet pretty clearly. That's Meerschaert's round. You go to the judges' scorecards, and wild. Saul Diamata, his scorecard reflects mine. Marcel Valera gives the first 2 rounds to Petroski. Again, right, we just talked about that. And then same thing for Steve Ritta. Honorable mention to I can't even give them an honorable mention because, again, this is one of those, like, it's a ticky-tacky thing of, like, Meerschaert barely outstruck him on the feet in that first, and then he got taken down. So, I was in my feelings. I wanted to put it in the injustice category, but it's just too close for me to give it that sort of wiggle room. Next honorable mention, Katana versus Gibson. I still haven't finished watching The Ultimate Fighter. I was trying to catch up. Fuck it, they spoiled it. It's whatever. 29-28. I had 29-28 to Katana. I gave the first round to Gibson. Last 2 rounds to Katana. That second round. No, I won't mention that. In the first round, Gibson is outstriking Katana. He's outstriking Katona. There's talk about the first round being close. It's not close. Gibson is outstriking Katona. I don't know where people are saying that Katona outstruck Gibson. That's nonsense. Second round, Katona outstrikes Gibson. He's actually losing. Like, Gibson's outstriking him at the start of this round. It kind of reminds me, I don't know if this is a good example, but it reminds me of Fiziev versus Gaethje, where Gaethje's kind of getting outstruck in that second round, which is why everyone kind of thinks like, hey, did Fiziev get robbed in that fight? Who knows? I didn't think so. I scored that round for Gaethje, but Gibson's kind of outstriking Katona, and then towards the, pretty much the majority of that round goes to Katona. Katona then just starts to outstrike Gibson by a lot. And then it's the third round that really fits the Fiziev round 2 Gaethje situation that I was talking about, where Katona is getting outstruck by Gibson in that first half, and then Katona starts to put it on Gibson and really outstrike him and land big shots. And that's where you get that last round for Katona. You go to the judges' scorecards, on the other hand, and Nick Mahmoud had it 29-28. His scorecard reflects mine. David Ginsburg, scorecard reflects mine, 29-28. And then Chris Lee gives the first round to Katona, 30-27. Honorable mention, that's a stupid scorecard. We go to the next honorable mention. This might be an honorable mention for me. Okay, it's Holobaugh. I think his name is Holobaugh. Holobaugh versus Hubbard. Okay. This fight ended in a submission win for Holobaugh in the second round. I had a 10-9 for Holobaugh. In that first round, Holobaugh outstruck Hubbard on the feet. He was losing on the feet for like that first part of the round, and then he really outstruck Holobaugh. He really outstruck Hubbard towards the end of the round, and he eventually outstruck him on the feet in total in that round. But Hubbard had 2 takedowns with ground and pound. Hubbard was active on the bottom, which I thought was interesting. He was active throwing punches and elbows on the bottom, but Hubbard had 2 takedowns with the ground and pound. I wanted to put a close marker on this, but I feel as though Holobaugh did enough on the ground, did enough on the bottom, and then outstruck him in total on the feet. Outstruck Hubbard on the feet, and which is why I gave him the round. I could be wrong on this. I stand by this scorecard, but I could be wrong on this. All 3 judges, though, Saudi Amato, Marcel Valera, and Ben Cartledge, they gave the first round to Hubbard. So, honorable mention to me. I fucked up. But I stand by the scorecard. Next honorable mention is an interesting one. This is an interesting one. Vera versus Munhoz, 29-28 to Vera. I have first round to Munhoz. First round is to Munhoz. Let's not even play. We're playing too much. First round is to Munhoz. Second round, I put a close marker on, and I'll explain. I put a close marker on 10-9 to Vera in the second round, and then the third round is obviously Vera, 29-28. In that first round, Munhoz outstrikes Vera mostly with leg kicks, and he outstrikes him by like 3 strikes. But he's outstriking. It's clear that he's outstruck Vera. That is his round, definite. Second round. This round is close. On the feet, it's very close. I give the edge to Vera. I felt as though he slightly outstruck Munhoz, but it's very close. You can kind of argue this round for either person. The problem I have with this round is they flash up the strike number. It's many times this card where they flash up the strike numbers, and it's just off to what you're looking at. They show, and I don't remember, but they show that Munhoz or Vera, I can't remember at this point, has outstruck one of the other by a wide margin. If I can remember correctly, it's Munhoz. They put Munhoz's strike numbers outstriking Vera by a lot. And I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't make any sense. That's not happening. They're both landing on each other at the same time. They're both hitting each other at the same time. They're both trading shots. And so in my head, I'm just thinking, disregard these strike numbers. It's absolutely stupid. I don't know why they threw that up there at all. Hey, UFC, they got shat on. A couple people online shat on them because I feel like sometimes they throw up these deceptive strike numbers to really fuck up the audience. They did the same thing for the Moreno-Pantoja fight, where they didn't show certain stats, and I feel like they did the same thing here, even though Moreno should have won that fight. Back to this point, though. Another interesting tidbit about that second round is I feel as though those strike numbers were inflated because Munhoz, again, that round, in my opinion, goes to Vera. It's a close round. It's very close on the strikes, in my opinion, but they inflated Munhoz's strike count because in that round, he's just spamming shots. And most of those shots are either blocked or they're missing Vera. That's the real key in that second round, is Munhoz and Vera are trading shots back and forth, but he's missing. He's missing like 2/3 of his shots. He's missing. Most of his shots are getting blocked. He's missing. That's the theme of that second round. And then the third round, Vera just outstrikes Munhoz, and that's where you get the scorecard. You go to the judges' scorecards, though. Go to the judges' scorecards, and Ben Carlage has it weird. He has it 29-28. Honorable mention to Ben Carlage. That's fucking stupid. He gives the first round to Vera. He gives the second round to Munhoz. I'm not mad at the second round to Munhoz. It's a close round. And then he gives the third round to Vera. Boom. Then you have Marcel Valera and Nick Mahmoud give a 30-27. You give a 30-27. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. It's stupid. With this close marker, you can argue this fight for Munhoz. If you just flip that second round, because the first round is definite, and the third round is definite. If you flip that second round, you can argue 29-28 for Munhoz. So honorable mention all three judges on this one. You go to the next honorable mention. It's Magny versus Garry, where Garry apparently became a villain. I didn't get to watch the post fight, the press conference. I just saw clips and stuff about people being like, "Oh, he's trying to be Conor McGregor. Gary's trying to be Conor McGregor," and I don't think that's true. Apparently, and I don't know. I'd have to go watch it again. But apparently, Magny said something. Gary's hype, but there's flashes in this fight. And before we get to the scorecard, it was just interesting because just based off of that knowledge and me not getting the whole crux of what happened, he starts off the fight, right? He's hype. And by the second and third round, right, there's just positions where Magny hits the floor because the leg kicks. And he's like, get up. He's screaming at him at the end of the third round. He's screaming at him. I was kind of like stunned for a second. Like the way he screamed at him too was, I don't know. The way he screamed at him was like a villain. It wasn't a scream as though the person at home is kind of in agreement with what Gary's doing. Granted, even if you understood what was their problems with each other, you'd still probably be like, "What? That was a bit much." He screamed at him like he said something terrible to him, and it just kind of caught me. It gave me like an icky feeling in my body. But he's taken up like a villain role now, which is something I didn't think would happen. I thought he was gonna be like, I'm the future, I'm next in line, blah 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 blah. I thought he was gonna do all that shit. No, he's like, I'm up next, I'm a good striker, blah 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 blah. This is it's just weird. It just left a goofy feeling in my stomach. Anyways, back to the fight. Magny versus Garry. I had this 30-26. Obviously a 10-8 in that third round for sure. First round, Garry outstruck Magny. Second round, Garry outstruck Magny. In the second round, maybe you could give it 10-8. Maybe. There was a lot of... he hurt him multiple times in this fight. Multiple times. And the the weird thing about this is by the time we get to the third round where I put a 10-8, Garry outstrikes Magny, hurts him multiple times, he drops him, it's one-way traffic, hence the 10-8. Garry's pretty much the only one landing strikes. I think Magny maybe landed like less than 10 strikes on him. DC then does a Bisbing, right, which is something I never thought he would do, and he goes, you know what's missing here? You know the one bit of criticism we can lob for Garry is I need a finish. And I thought it was the stupidest thing ever. You know, it's one thing, they say this a lot to the prelim fighters who have a clear opportunity to finish and might need a finish or are so good enough, are so head and shoulders above the person that they're facing on the prelims that, hey, this guy should get a finish here. What I found stupid about this was, in one sense, it's, man, if this were anybody but Magny, they would have been done. Magny has no quit in him. Oh, look at all those leg kicks. Oh, but Magny's he's tough. He's tough. Magny wanted to clinch so bad. I could feel it through my computer screen. That's how bad Magny wanted to clinch. But beyond that, beyond the shitting on Magny, they were praising Magny for his toughness. Yet at the same time, shitting on Garry for his lack of finishing. It made zero fucking sense. How could you, in one sentence, go, Magny is a tough son of a bitch, Magny's so tough, Magny's so tough, and then go, but Ian, you gotta finish him. What are you talking about? He's hurt his leg multiple times. He has hurt his leg multiple times. Chiesa couldn't put him out there. Chiesa went 5 rounds with Magny. What's his name? Daniel Rodriguez went 3 rounds with him. Like, or 2, I can't remember at this point. It's certain stuff like this where I'm thinking, do they even hear what they're saying? Magny essentially got finished tonight. I mean, he basically did. Garry went to the foot every single time and tried to finish him. You're right, he couldn't, but that's not a bad thing. Like, it's not a bad thing to not finish your opponent. We're in MMA. We do this every time. Our sport's cool because you can be 5-10 and still have an opportunity to win the title. Our sport's cool because we can see cool fights and not have a finish. But yet, we have a set of goofy fans who just hear that and then go, he didn't finish him. Gary's a bum. What are you fucking talking about? Anyways, we'll go to the scorecards. We go to the scorecards, where they're a little all over the place. Yeah, Ben College, he has it 30-26. His scorecard reflects mine. Marcel Valera, his scorecard reflects mine. And then David Ginsburg has it 30-24. Honorable mention to David Ginsburg. I think that's ridiculous. It reminds me of the goofy scorecard we got with Till and with Josh Emmett and Ilya Topuria, where someone gave a 50-42. There was no need for the 10-8 in the first round. I think that's a bit much. 10-8 in the second, sure. Could. I don't like it, but sure. And then a 10-8 in the third is 100%. That makes sense. So honorable mention to David Ginsburg. I think it's a super inflated scorecard. We go to the next honorable mention. Weili Zhang versus Amanda Lemos. I had this 50-43. 10-8 in the first round, 10-8 in the fifth round, and the rest are 10-9s. You go to each round, obviously. In the first round, Zhang had 2 takedowns with ground and pound for 4 minutes. 4 minutes, just constant ground and pound. Constant ground and pound. Lemos had some sub attempts here and there littered through this fight. Some of them weren't in. One of them was kind of in, and then Weili just kind of moved out the way and then just waited it out and then got out. So I'll highlight that. But constant ground and pound in that first round for 4+ minutes. That warrants the 10-8. You got the second round. Weili had 2 takedowns with ground and pound for 3+ minutes. Third round, Weili had outstruck Lemos on the feet and had a takedown for 2+ minutes. Fourth round, which is, if I can remember correctly, is the round where the commentary were kind of highlighting the fact that, oh, Lemos landed a couple clean shots here, and then there was a takedown by Weili that maybe perhaps this round could belong to Lemos. No. You go to the third round. Go to the fifth round. Weili drops Lemos and has a takedown with loads of ground and pound. That's where you get the 10-8 on that part. You go to the judges' scorecards. Solid the amount of his scorecard reflects mine. Chris Lee has it 50-44. He gives up 10-8 in the first, but doesn't give a 10-8 in the fifth. I think that should be a 10-8, but that's fine. That's whatever. We'll move on from that. And then Nick Mahmoud decides he gives a 10-8 in the fifth round. Doesn't give a 10-8 in the first round. I think that's, I don't like it. I'll just say that. And then gives the fourth round to Amanda Lemos. Now, here's what's goofy about this. Amanda Lemos in that fourth round lands a couple nice clean shots and is looking decent on the feet in the sense that she landed a couple clean shots, but she was still getting outstruck by Weili. Weili still outstruck her on the feet. In that round, she still outstruck her. We do these rounds all the time. She outstruck her still on the feet, and she had a takedown. This round belongs to Weili, so honorable mention there to Nick Mahmoud. And that's the end of the honorable mentions category. We're going to end this with Sterling versus O'Malley. TKO win for O'Malley. We have a new champion. Finally, we can move on. I mean, we'll see what happens next. I mean, what fight should we see next? It's O'Malley versus Moroz. That's what we should see next. The UFC is on some new shit where we're probably not going to see it. We're going to see Vera, and I don't want to see Vera because then O'Malley's probably going to lose, is my opinion, and I'll explain in a second. I want to highlight that in that after the first round, I don't know whether the commentators just aren't watching. I'm just going to say, I don't think they were fucking watching. Joe, who I like Rogan, is like, man, how are we going to score this round? What the fuck are you talking about? Aljamain landed 8 leg kicks on him. 8 to 10 leg kicks. He's outstriking O'Malley far. Before they even clinch up in that last sequence, he's outstriking O'Malley. And they're talking about, oh, this is close. Because O'Malley landed, 2 strikes in that round? Nonsense. And they're just like, it's close. You're telling me that if a judge gave a round to O'Malley, this would have been as though a judge gave a round to O'Malley when he fought Munhoz. Wink, wink, somebody did. But thankfully, nobody did. So, I just found that really interesting that they were just like, wow, this is a close round. Oh my God, how are they going to score? How do we score this? There wasn't that much walking around doing nothing. They were hitting each other's legs. Primarily Aljamain outstriking O'Malley. Then you get to the ending sequence in round 2 where this is like the second time Goddard does this. I don't know whether Goddard just pulls the trigger too quickly or maybe he's just seeing something that I'm not seeing. But after watching the replay many times, I like the stoppage, but it's a bit quick. I feel as though, and we say this all the time, when you're in a main event, when you have the belt, when you're in a high-profile fight, when you're a credentialed fighter, when you're a legend, you should get the benefit of the doubt. If Nick Diaz can get the benefit of the doubt versus Robbie Lawler, where Herzog probably gave him, I think that's Herzog, it might be Herzog, where Herzog gave him 2 billion chances to get the fuck up off the ground. I don't know what to tell you. We've seen worse. We've seen fighters get reamed and still get a chance to keep going. It's insane that Goddard might just have a quick fucking trigger. This is it's just popping up in my head now. I like the stoppage, but at the same time, I kind of don't like the stoppage. O'Malley hits him. He drops him. Right, then the ground and pound shots, right, and then Sterling's moving. Then he lands one that lands clean, and Sterling's basically dazed. Then he moves over. Sterling hits him again. O'Malley hits Sterling again, and then Goddard jumps in. And while, yeah, when you look at the replay, sure, and when you look at it live, sure, you're still like, you know what, he rolled over. Like, let it complete. He does the same thing for the Adesanya fight, where we're like, dude, he didn't even knock him out. We're talking about how active Adesanya is as a fighter. If Adesanya got for real knocked out in that fight, first of all, if he got for real knocked out, he doesn't fight Pereira as soon as he does. He doesn't in the second fight. On top of that, he doesn't fight Strickland coming up this soon. Like, he just stopped the fight too prematurely. And then another thing that popped into my head, he stopped the Colby fight against Usman, where Colby's not. That might be worse. It's a shame, and I think it's because people just hate Colby. It's definitely because people hate Colby. The fact that they don't agree on the fact that fight was stopped too soon. Colby isn't even shelling up first of all, he's not even shelling up at all, but not even that. Goddard isn't even saying move fighter, move fight. He's not even giving the dude, I need you to fucking move. He's literally just like, oh shit, it's done? Okay, it's done. And he stops it that quickly. It's insane. It's insane. And it leaves a tiny sour taste in my mouth, the fact that Sterling didn't get a full chance to fucking swivel and swim on the ground just to see if he would have gotten up and then the round continued. It's just too quick. It's too quick of a fucking stoppage. And I don't really like that. But anyways, that's all we got. I will be back next week for the 8 o'clock fight night. Central time. 8 o'clock fight night. I think it's 7. It's 7 o'clock. Because 8 Eastern, 7 o'clock. It's fucking, it's wild. But yeah. Well, I'll be back next week for that. Thank you all for listening. That's all I got. Thank you all for listening. And God bless.